Oh, yo. So I decided. First of all, introductions are in order, I would like to say. I have decided to start a new series on YouTube. And I've already started now with stories of my life, where I'm trying to talk a bit about my experiences from the past. Now, the way I see it when I'm talking or thinking about spirituality is that most people have no idea what that means. And when somebody's talking about spiritual practices, there are certain terms such as meditation or yoga, right? I'm looking here I have a poster in my room, and it's the beginner's series of some kind of yoga practice that in essence basically means nothing to me. And there are several reasons why these words, meditation or yoga, to me mean nothing because I haven't been educated in these things. What I've been educated in are, these pretentious dates of history that are completely irrelevant to my life today. Right? I've been trained in knowing that people believed for a while that the universe came into existence due to something they consider to be the Big Bang, which is, of course, a theory, but which science marketed as the truth. And now suddenly you read stuff somewhere in some paper or whatever, and it says, well, the Big Bang theory was not true after all. Oh, how weird is that? I mean, it even says it's a theory, nothing more. So I think there are certain things that are very unimportant. And amongst those is, for example, the size and latitude or longitude or altitude of whatever city you're living in. Nobody gives a shit how big a place is. But what I realized while I was beginning to do certain things, and one of these things is crochet, is that whatever people tried to talk to me about meditation, which for most people is simply sitting down, breathing into their stomach, and pretending that's what they do. They pretend that they're really happy doing this. Because meditation, just like going for runs, is good for you, right? That's the kind of mentality why people often meditate, because they think it's good for them. So I never do that kind of stuff. I've tried it, but I don't get anything out of it. The only times I did was usually when I ingested some psychotropic agent such as cannabis, or smoked it, inhaled it, and then I would be relaxed enough to actually meditate. That's also one point. To just sit there and pretend you feel good and meditate and then breathe into your stomach while you're completely stressed on the inside, While there's so many people around you making noises, while you're being hammered with 10 different Wi-Fi signals, and while you probably ate too much sugar or whatever shit you've been stuffing yourself with, and on top of that is also all that tension you have in your body. Sore muscles in the back, or weak muscles in the back, inflammation, especially of the lower spine. I don't know if people call that a hernia, which is like, I don't know, if something bad happens to your lower back, right? It's like what most people have. And then they're getting surgery, while they could have avoided that with changing their lifestyle, changing the way they sit, changing the way they do all kinds of things. You know, they could have changed it. And often people are suffering from a bad back, not because of tightness or something, but because of lack of strength. But it's a mixture. It's a mixture of your back is too weak and you should stretch more. But for most people, it's actually lack of muscles. And that's why these, how do you call them? Ligaments, I don't know. These bony things that sit on each other, which then form your spine, they rub onto each other. And there's all kinds of nerves and stuff, you know, there's a lot of energy flowing in that area. And if that cannot flow properly, well, then you're fucked. And then you're weak and you will have trouble sitting in a relaxed fashion. And that means when you then hear about spirituality and you think, oh, well, that sounds great. I only have to sit down and meditate and suddenly all my problems are gone. And then you sit down and meditate and you breathe into your stomach for 5 minutes. And you just think, well, that just does nothing. Plus, my back hurts. And then people don't do it anymore. Which I understand because I don't do it. Like I said, unless I'm smoking a lot of cannabis and then I feel really relaxed. But yeah, I smoke it pure if I smoke it, and I haven't smoked it in quite a while. Which is good because cannabis makes you really soft and oversensitive, and I'm already sensitive as it is. And that's why I started to develop certain habits which allowed me to change as a person and to become more at peace, so to speak. And one of the things you should probably be looking at is your diet. Because when you see me there doing crochet, I'm making another hat, because I'm practicing making hats so that I'm confident that I can do hats. Right? That is what learning is about. You keep doing it until you know you can do it. And then you introduce change to get out of your comfort zone again, so that you keep learning how to do it in a different way, right? So now I'm making another hat, and I'm working with two different colors, because it makes the hat thicker and it adds a nice texture to the fabric. And the way you see me sitting is in the squat, which you may consider consider to call it the indigenous squat. Now, to sit like this for half an hour will probably, unless you know your legs are already quite tough, and some people have it much easier than others, for me to sit like this was not as impossible as it seems to be for other people, because some people, they can't even get down like that low. You know, when they try to sit like this, and this is a natural position that you can see in any child, But that is lost along the way because all the sinews, all the muscles, and all the tendons, they get very short because people never stretch. And this is the most natural way of stretching your legs and strengthening them while sitting. So I've been having breakfast like this. Yeah, quite recently because I don't eat in this room. So I go where there's chairs and then I sit on them. But I try when I do crochet, and sometimes when I do other things, I try sitting like this. And you can also read a book like this. And just be aware that probably when you have never done this, you might not get that low. You might just get to a kind of, I'm sitting on a chair in the air position, like that exercise where you lean with your back against the wall and you're pretending like you're sitting on a chair, although there is no chair, and you hold it, right? And some people, when they want to get down into the squat, they don't manage because they are so tight. But the genius thing about this position is, as opposed to other ways of stretching your legs, that your body weight will do everything for you. All you have to do is lower yourself, right? You wear socks or your bare feet, and then you lower yourself to the point, while still being on your feet, like that still feels comfortable to you. And then you hold it. Maybe in the beginning, just hold it for 5 seconds because otherwise it's too painful. Or you hold it for 20 seconds. Don't overdo it. But this can literally change your entire posture when you know how to sit like this comfortably. Plus, at the same time, it takes pressure off your lower back because it's naturally stretching your lower back. And at the same time, and that's the crazy thing, while it's stretching your legs, it's also strengthening them. So when I sit like this, I can feel a lot of strength from holding that position in my legs, especially around the shins, my ankles, and you can also balance on your toes if it gets too uncomfortable, and you can feel that the blood flow is being restricted. But the other genius point about that position is that, now I can use a bit of science to explain to all you materialists who maybe, wrinkle their noses when they hear something about energy flow. But you can explain this, apparently, that when you sit like this, the circulation or the blood flow is cut off. And when you then get to the point where you have these pins and needles, right? I had sometimes, after having breakfast for 10 or 15 minutes in such a position, or in this position, I just didn't feel my legs anymore. I mean, they were gone, and then you have to go through this severe, pins and needles kind of, I don't know if it's, are you supposed to call that a pain? Is that painful? I can't really say. In a way, it's liberating because then at least you'll know how it would feel like if you wouldn't have legs. Anyway, and then what happens is your body starts to build something that is being called capillaries, which are supposed to be very fine blood vessels or veins or something. I think blood vessels is the right term. And these then increase the circulation of blood in your legs, which ultimately means that you're going to have stronger legs. Plus, more blood flow also means more oxygen, because I think that's what the capillaries also do. It's not just blood, it's also oxygen. And that means you have gonna have bigger stamina. Your endurance is going to increase. You're going to have an easier time, for example, if you want a slack line, to stand on the slack line, to go hiking. And of course, from that, you could build on to like thinking about going more barefoot and stuff. Because when I started walking barefoot, but I'm not really going to talk about this here, I also started doing this because when I started walking barefoot, I had to change the entire way that I move. And that made me realize that, for example, my Achilles tendon, all these things, they were so tight that I was afraid of rupturing them. So I was looking for ways how to stretch them. And these yoga exercises, however easy they might look, you already need quite a lot of body strength to do that. You need a lot of stability to do a movement like, I don't know, that downward facing dog. You need a lot of stability in order to do these things. And I have quite a lot of strength. I have quite a lot of stability, but I have trouble with doing yoga on a frequent basis. So I do these kinds of things because I can incorporate them into my daily life. I don't have to do much to sit on the ground. I once worked in a call center and I've been sitting like this on a chair while I was doing customer service for Apple products, like talking to people about, how to fix their computers or something. I was sitting on the chair with my feet, with my bare feet in a call center because just sitting on a chair literally destroyed my back. And so I did the best that I could. But I wanted to talk actually more about doing crochet. But I think I'll do that in the next video. So I still have 13 minutes to talk to you about stuff. I don't know if I really have to. But I think I shall. So just to give you a heads up, which I don't really have to because I probably don't know you, but just about my life in general and what I'm doing. At the moment, I'm busy revolutionizing my art, which you can see on Instagram. At the same time, I'm working on my newest book, which is called Facing Emotions, which is going to work with introducing certain quite hectic ways of seeing maybe people. And the way you can work with that is, well, it's not done yet. I still have 6 chapters. It's not going to be overly long, not more than 200 pages, I think. Yeah, I think it's going to go for 20 euros. Also put some artwork in, which I won't release. The artwork in my books is exclusively for the books. I just want to say that. I don't really want to make this too much of a sales thing. But I also think it's important, when people actually show an interest in these videos, that they also know roughly, what I'm doing. Well, you call this, of course, advertisement, which is not really a bad thing. Anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. So now we're having the 25th of December. I've spent yesterday and today alone in my room. While the rest of the house was having celebrations and stuff, I just stuck to myself because I didn't feel like it. I was doing crochet. I was watching like one movie. I was sleeping and generally just resting. And oh yeah, what I wanted to say about the book. You read it when it's done, and if you want to. And the way that I write these books, and I'm doing it more conscious in this one, right? You're supposed to read it, and while reading it, you are going to feel certain things just because of the way that I talk about whatever is happening in the story. And your job is to face these emotions, because what the book does, it's going to let these emotions surface, right? I mean, surface. And your job is then to feel them and to kind of assess them, to look at them, and to wonder about why you are feeling these things. So the way that my books especially work is they're going to confront you with a lot of stuff that you might be afraid of. And they're going to do this by kind of walking you through a maze, the maze of your own self. Because that's what I've been doing with myself, and then I've learned to basically project it onto my books. Because if you know what's coming, it's not gonna work. This has to be like, a slap on the back of your head out of nothingness, something that just like, boom, just comes out of nothing. And you then have to deal with it. So I think some people might pick up my books and then read them, and after 5 pages, it's starting to get heavy, and they think, oh, that's shit. That's not the point. Like, if you put it aside, you'll never learn from it. So you have to keep reading. You have to keep reading. If you don't, you're gonna miss it. Because I don't openly say everything on the first page. Sometimes I go through 5 pages of madness and then boom, right? There's like, suddenly I'm writing in a clear style again. Or suddenly I'm back to the story. And that's how my life generally is. It's maybe 60% madness and 40% sense. And I just have to hold on most of the time. And that's what you have to do with these books. You have to sit down, you have to read it. And when you start feeling nauseous, or anxious, or afraid, or angry, or sad, you stop reading for the moment. Then you close your eyes, probably. And you try to feel what you're feeling, and how you can do that is by breathing into the stomach. In and out through your nose. And this you have to do until you feel better. You just have to breathe through it. And it may be that in front of your inner eye appear certain images, certain emotions, which can show themselves in the form of images in front of your inner eye. When you look for them, a bit like a diver, like having on goggles, or more like a snorkeler on the surface, right? And sometimes you have to dive down and really look at something. And it might be that you suddenly want to write something, and you take a piece of paper and you just write. And whether, a poem wants to come out, or whether you want to draw something, however shit that looks, doesn't matter. Or whether you want to sing, I don't know, right? Or maybe suddenly you want to stretch. So these books are intended to reconnect you with yourself. And of course my videos are as well, but that's different. I'm telling you that because I know it's different. Not just because I want to sell stuff to you. If you want to check it out, go to medium.com. There's about 119 articles that you can read, that you can go through, and that you can test and say, okay, I'll work with, they're quite short because I'm not, I give so much stuff already just for free. I'm not gonna outdo myself on Medium. That's just advertisement. So you can test it, whether that works. The link is in the description of this video, of all the recent videos. And so, that's just one thing. And maybe, I'll just call that the squat. Because the squat really enhances your endurance. And so does facing your emotions. But whether it is the one or the other, what's certain is that you have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. You will never truly get comfortable if you aren't facing the things that make you uncomfortable. So if sitting like this is uncomfortable for you, then you have to face that until it gets comfortable. And when you see indigenous people, if you want to call them like that, I would call them free people, because indigenous people is just like third world, right? It's like degrading them. Oh, those little savages, right? Like in Brave New World, the savages. The savage. Yeah, and these terms are only used by the mindless, ignorant fools, the mob, people controlled by, whatever you think is controlling them. Yeah. So they sit like this and it's comfortable for them. And you can train. Sometimes it depends. I can do longer. Sometimes I can do not so long. I don't really know what that is connected with. I think it's just practice. So just keep practicing these things. That's just one thing you can do. And this may ultimately help you to do yoga at one point. This is one exercise that strengthens your legs, stretches them at the same time, and it can even correct if you have feet that are showing outwards. If you sit like this, you make sure that your feet are straight and you keep sitting like this. I think that often people who have outward pointing legs or inward pointing legs, they just have to become conscious of the way they walk. And one way of correcting this, I believe, might be this position. Because if all the tendons are evenly long, I don't see a reason why feet should be pointing into opposite directions. In the next video, I'm going to talk a bit about mindfulness, meditation, and crochet, which is something I didn't really do now, but it's okay because I really also needed to introduce the squat. And if you've been wondering, I've been saying that quite a bit already because people, they don't really seem to spend a lot of time with my content. And what I would like to tell you is, I don't speak like most people speak. I say whatever comes to my mind. I'm trying to have a certain direction, and that's what I have in my books. Right? I have a goal, that's what I want to discuss in this book, and then I allow my mind or my spirit to wander through the general topic of the book. And that's how life works, and that's where this video ends.